The House will now have under consideration House Bill 36. Good gentleman from District 34.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that we suspend further reading of the bill upon unanimous consent.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman from District 34 has the floor to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is brought on behalf of the Board of Examiners of Nursing Home Administrators. The bill accomplishes two things to Regulation 54-1612. The bill provides authority to impose up to a $1,000 based upon disciplinary proceedings for licensee violation of board's laws or regulations. The bill also provides the board authority to order a licensee to pay the costs and fees incurred in their investigation and prosecution if they are found to have violated the board's laws or rules. A large investigation and prosecuting of a licensee could exhaust the board's funds, and it would seem unreasonable to share this burden of inappropriate activity onto other members of the board. Plus, it adds flexibility. Currently, the board can only revoke a license or suspend it, which puts the nursing home out of business, either temporarily or completely. This would give flexibility, and it would be much easier to get a person's attention with up to $1,000 fine, plus whatever fees are involved to prove the point. If a licensee does not feel that it's fair, a hearing would be held with an attorney for him and an attorney for the plaintiff board and a hearing officer. So this is very fair and gives more regulation, ability and flexibility to the nursing home board. The Health and Welfare Board has passed this with a do pass recommendation to the floor, and I stand for any questions.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 16.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman from 34 yield to a question?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, good gentleman. I understand the provision of the bill about requiring a licensee who is adjudicated to be in violation to pay the board's fees. Was there any discussion in committee, in the presentation of the agency or otherwise, as to why there's no provision in the bill for the licensee who is wrongly accused and exonerated in the proceedings not being able to recover his or her fees?
Gentleman from 34.
Sir, in that case, there would be no fees or fines presented to the nursing home licensee.
Mr. Speaker, a follow-up?
Good gentleman from District 16. Will the gentleman from 34 yield to another question?
Yes.
The gentleman will yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is as to whether there was any explanation to the committee or any discussion in the committee as to why an exonerated licensee who's had an action brought against them would not be able to recover for their fees and costs in defending themselves against the action to remove their or to affect their license.
Gentleman from 34.
In a court of law, if you're there to defend yourself, you have to pay your own fees, just like district court or magistrate court. If you're going to require to go to hearing because you don't believe that's correct what they're saying, you've got to pay your own fees. Now, you won't have to pay the fees of the board's prosecution or investigation. That's their responsibility.
Is there further debate?
Mr. Speaker?
Good gentleman from 16.
What I was attempting to determine is whether there was a rationale for the kind of the one-way aspect of this, that the agency gets to recover but the innocent party does not, and I don't think that I received an answer, so I would just like to comment, if I may, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We're taking your comments as debate in opposition.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Although I'm not sure that I will vote against this bill, it strikes me that it is somewhat unfair that the agency, on the one hand, if it prevails, recovers fees and costs, while if the licensee is exonerated from an accusation that they've done something wrong, that they may not get to recover any fees and costs. And I don't think I would respectfully disagree with the gentleman with respect to the ability of people to recover in court for their fees and costs. There are those circumstances in which an innocent party who is sued or who is bringing a case can recover fees and costs under some circumstances. It's a complicated area of the law, and it just bothers me that there is a seemingly unequal treatment of the licensee in a situation where the licensee has been exonerated. Thank you.
Is there further debate? The gentleman from District 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman yield to a question concerning...
Will the gentleman from District 34 yield to a question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. Is this a civil action or a criminal action? It appears to follow a section C on line 22 that refers to the license being changed in case of a guilt by fraud or deceit, which would appear to fall under the criminal code. And now we're adding the ability to add a fine to that. But isn't this already a matter of in the criminal code for prosecutorial discretion?
Gentleman from 34.
The gentleman is correct. If it is a civil case, in the case of fraud, whether you're fraudulently using Medicaid or Medicare monies, it would be a civil case. But not all of them are, some of them are just administrative rules, and they would only be prosecuted by the board for those areas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, good gentleman.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Good lady from District 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just wondering, I would like to go ahead and make a comment in regards to the good gentleman's question from 16. I had the exact same question in committee as to what would happen if a person had been accused of something and then it found out that they were not actually responsible for that action. And what the board had explained was that it's extremely rare that this actually goes to prosecutorial. Most of the time, it only goes through investigation process. And the investigation process itself is actually extremely lengthy and expensive. But their actions here are not to persecute anybody. But these are nursing homes, and these are our elderly, they are our invalid, they are the people that cannot speak for themselves, and therefore they actually have a duty to go ahead and do the investigation, although it is rare. Now, when it comes to actually prosecutorial, it actually only applies if they are prosecuted. And I believe that that tied into actually some statute that already existed. Did that have, and I hope that was helpful, and that this was actually meant to keep nursing homes open while they can go ahead and investigate, use the fine process instead of closing them down. But the investigation part is actually extremely important, and it's actually lengthy and can be expensive as well. So I just hope that that helped. That was the explanation I was given, and I was satisfied with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 14.
Thank you. Just to rise to declare a Rule 38. I am an owner of an assisted living facility, which may or may not apply to, and I do intend to vote.
So noted. Is there further debate? Hearing none, I'm going to allow the good gentleman from District 34 to close debate, as I have interpreted there being debate in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill, the change in this bill, was designed to be something proactive for the nursing home licensees. Instead of facing a complete cutoff, here they can have an administrative hearing and have a fine up to $1,000. There would be some costs involved. The costs were not usually very large in its amount, but this was to be favorable for the licensees and not to harm them. And based on that, I would urge the House to vote on this act in a positive manner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, good gentleman. Debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 36 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the roll and the members will record their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the count and record the vote. The roll call shows 54 aye, 13 nay, 3 absent and excused. House Bill 36 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 36 will be transmitted to the Senate.